So Joe Biden has a new black woman that he wants to nominate for the Supreme Court. I'm going to talk about Joe Biden's selection. Her name is Ketanji Brown Jackson. And I'm going to tell you some things that maybe you do or don't know, some things in my life. Wife and I were laughing about today. And we're just going to give you the honest black perspective like you know we do here at drboystv.com. So get comfortable, buckle up your seatbelt. We're going to get started right now.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones too late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to co-sign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are, clan.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to drboystv.com, the home for intelligent black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. And first off, let me ask you all, give me a yes in the chat if you can hear me okay. Sometimes, you know how it is on these internet streets. Sometimes the sound doesn't go through, and I'm testing out a new microphone. So give me a yes in the chat if you are able to hear me okay. Let me know if you can hear me. Hey, Khalif Muhammad, how are you? Neighbor Caldwell, thank you so much for your confirmation. P. King, gangster teacher, I like that. You gotta be gangster about your education. You gotta be gangster about your education. Well, the lady I'm going to talk about today, her family, her family's full of educational gangsters. I'm going to give you an honest Dr. Boyce breakdown on Joe Biden's nominee for the Supreme Court. And because you'll know how I am, I'm going to just tell it like it is, give you the honest truth, period. Don't care what nobody thinks. I'm not trying to be beholden to anybody. I'm not Democrat. I'm not Republican. I'm just black. I vote black in every election. How about that? Give me a yes in the chat if you understand what I'm saying. Also, put your hashtag B1 in the chat. B1 means we are black first. That means we put our community at the top of our priority list. We're not here to serve anybody until we serve ourselves. Put a hashtag B and the number 1 in the chat if you get what I'm saying on all of this. Now, let me move on. I'm going to ask you guys a question. I'm going to ask you all a question. As you hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Everybody, please hit the thumbs up button. How many of you heard about the black woman that Biden selected for the Supreme Court? Did anybody catch that news this morning? It's kind of in the middle of a lot of other news about things going on in the Ukraine and stuff like that. Did anybody else see this news about Biden selecting a black woman for the Supreme Court, which is consistent with what he said he was going to do, right? Her name is, I hope I say it right, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Ketanji Brown Jackson. Now, it's funny because I want to call her Tangi. I want to call her Tangi. I'm not going to, or I want to call her Judge Tangi, to be honest with you, because my sister, her name is Latanja Watkins, and we call her Tangi. And when she became a medical doctor, we called her Dr. Tangi, just like y'all call me Dr. Boyce. So in fact, I'm going to call her Judge Tangi. I hope that's okay. But anyway, Judge Tangi is interesting. I read about her background. My wife and I, as you know, my wife is a full professor of social work. And so, we hang in those hoity-toity circles of, educated, elite black people and wealthy black people. We've seen all of that. But also we understand the flaws of all this, and one thing I appreciate about my beautiful black wife is that she does not do groupthink. She doesn't just sign up for a group and follow along with whatever the group is doing. She's a woman that reads over 20 books a year. And that gives her the ability to think freely and to see things from multiple perspectives. So that's probably a foundation for what we do on this platform. The goal is to teach you how to be open-minded, to really consider all the possibilities as opposed to locking yourself into any specific point of view, except maybe B1, being black first and taking care of yourselves first. All right. So anyway, hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. All right. So here's some information I found out about Dr. Tangi. What I do when I hear about somebody like a doctor, like a Judge Tangi, I'm sorry, Judge, I'm going to call it Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. I'm not going to call it Tangi because some of y'all are going to get mad at me for that. But anyway, so she is interesting. She's super smart. Her parents were both teachers. And shout out to all the teachers in the building. I know I'm sure some of you are teachers. Raise your hand if you're a teacher or if you were influenced by a teacher. We know how important those black teachers are. We also know how important education is in the family. In fact, actually, did you all know this? Give me a yes or no if you knew this. Did you know that both Kanye West and Dave Chappelle, I think both of their parents were college professors? Was that right, babe? Chappelle, both of his parents? Yeah. So did y'all know that? And it's not coincidental. Now pay attention. Now I'm giving y'all some game right here. I'm helping you understand the importance of critical thinking skill. Kanye, when I had a conversation with Kanye, I've only talked to him once. He mentioned Dave Chappelle, and it sounded to me like Dave Chappelle was kind of a friend, mentor that they, that they kind of share information, that they advise each other. And you also know one other thing they have in common is these are two guys that don't necessarily go along with the mainstream. They don't go along with what everybody else is doing. And again, that's where that critical thinking skill comes into play. You can't disconnect the fact that these guys are independent thinkers and geniuses as well in their own way, right? You can't disconnect the fact that both of these guys, both Kanye West and Dave Chappelle, are independent thinkers, geniuses at their craft, and both happen to have parents who are college professors that influence their thinking. So maybe that is something they have in common with Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Judge Jackson has, as you would expect from a Supreme Court nominee, she has a really awesome record as a judge. You know, she didn't go out and, get in a shootout with the cops. She didn't, ain't no crazy felonies on her record. Ain't no weird ex-boyfriends coming out and telling ridiculous stories. She's pretty squeaky clean, but that's what you kind of expect. I was interested in Biden's nominee. I wasn't completely surprised by the type of person that he selected for this role. And what I want to do is kind of go down the list of some things I observed and some things that my wife and I kind of laughed about or thought about and had a deep conversation about as we were kind of looking at her background. First thing I'll say is the nomination of a black woman to the Supreme Court. I mean, that is more overdue than your crazy cousin's phone bill, the one that got bad credit. Like, that's so overdue. Like, it's more overdue than your student loans. Because I know some of y'all, raise your hands if you just given up on your student loans. If you literally told them that the student loans will be paid whenever Jesus writes the check, right? I don't know if anybody else has had that experience. And I don't blame you because those student loans are crazy. So this is overdue. This is long overdue. This is, something that should have happened 100 years ago. And we know what black women have done for this country. And this is just kind of sad. And the sadder part of it, in my view, was I remember Barack Obama promised Dorothy Height before she died that he was going to nominate a black woman for the Supreme Court. He told Dorothy Height that, and he broke his promise. In my view, he broke his promise. And what he did was he came up with a cheap substitute by the name of Elena Kagan. And I was furious about the Elena Kagan nomination and the fact that they wanted me. The White House called me, literally. I mean, don't think about it. Why would a guy like me get a call from the White House? You ain't got no use for me any other time. Well, here's what the reason they called me. They called me because they know that there are black people who listen to me. Not all black people listen to me. Ignorant people don't listen to me. Ratchet people don't listen to me. If you're too stuck on stupid or if you're too stuck in mainstream thinking, you don't listen to me. But intelligent black people with critical thinking skills listen to me. So what they did was they came in and they said, we got this great nominee and her name's Elena Kagan. And I was like, okay, so what's special about this lady other than the fact that she's endorsed by Barack Obama? And they said, well, she holds the Thurgood Marshall chair of, something at Harvard. And I was like, I don't care about that. So what? She's sitting in a chair, big deal. And what Roland Martin actually pointed out, and I agreed with Roland on this. Y'all know me. I don't agree with Roland on a lot of stuff, but this is an area where we align perfectly. And Roland had pointed out that there were two law professors who wrote a scathing article explaining that this woman had been at Harvard for 5 or 6 years and hadn't hired a single black person on any level. I think she hired 32 people. 30 of them were white males or something ridiculous like that, right? So that's that Harvard racism, which is still well in existence. It hasn't gone away. It's not like Harvard. You have the new Harvard now. No, it's still pretty bad. And somebody said, I'm ignorant and ratchet and I listen to you too. Well, if you listen to me, bro, you ain't ignorant. You might be ratchet, maybe ratchet, but shoot, I could probably be ratchet, but you ain't ignorant, man. And because to me, ignorance is defined when you don't know things, but you're insistent upon remaining knowledgeless. Like, right? Like if you don't know what you want to know and you insist on remaining stuck on on zero, then that to me is ignorant. But if you don't know a lot and you want to learn, then you will eventually be defined by where you're going, not by where you are. So the fact that you're here to me leads me to have a lot of respect for you, period. So anyway, let me keep going. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. I'm going to give you some more background on Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. So she's she's interesting, right? She's got a pretty impressive record in terms of what she's done on the bench. I think she's going to get approved. She also now here's the thing. Here's the play that tends to get run when it comes to the Supreme Court. Now, y'all remember the Whoopi Goldberg problem. I'm not going to really talk specifically about it because I know y'all know what happened to Whoopi. Like they whooped Whoopi's ass when Whoopi got out of line. And y'all know who went after Whoopi, right? Y'all remember that? Those people that have all the power but claim they have no power. The group that acts like, well, we don't own anything. Why would you accuse us of being so powerful? But you get people fired and canceled whenever they make you mad. When Nick Cannon pissed you off, you took him back behind the barn and beat him like he was a 4-year-old who peed on the floor, man. Y'all just imagine. Literally, they were like, Nick Cannon, and here are Nick Cannon's testicles. Notice that they've been detached from his body. We've removed them just to make a point, right? So anyway, so this group has a lot of power. I'm sorry. Maybe somebody thinks it's anti-Semitic for me to say that they have power, but my God, I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, looking out the window of my hotel, and I see a hospital called Jewish Hospital. Now, how often can I look out my window of my hotel and see African American Hospital or the Black Hospital? We got the Black Business School. Y'all know that. Y'all should go to boycewatkins.com if you want to check out the Black Business School. But I don't see the Black Hospital. I don't see the African American Hospital, but I see the Jewish Hospital across the street. I bet I'll find one in a whole lot of cities. Y'all ain't got one. They probably got 500 of them. So here's the deal. That group, the Supreme Court, what I picked up on is that there's a little bit of an aristocracy, oligopolistic kind of cartelish framework for how the Supreme Court is developed. Meaning that, and what I mean by that is basically like gangster stuff. That Harvard University and Yale tend to have a lock on the Supreme Court. For many, many years, almost every single Supreme Court justice either attended or taught at Harvard or Yale. I remember Ginsburg. For a while, Ginsburg was the only exception, but even Ginsburg started at Harvard and transferred to Columbia, another Ivy League school. Now, some of that's changed a little bit, but that Harvard-Yale lock on the Supreme Court is still a big deal. And I remember when Elena Kagan was what they were trying to pitch Elena Kagan to me, the Obama people were, I noticed that she went to Harvard, or she taught it. She was actually on the faculty at Harvard. She was also Jewish. And I wouldn't be surprised if she was LGBT. I won't go into why I picked up on that, but I kind of honestly felt that was the case. And also she was a woman, right? So she checked a lot of boxes. Well, when I look at Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, she checked some of those boxes too. Can anybody guess in the chat where Ketanji Brown Jackson went to law school? Any guesses? Can anybody smart enough to figure that out? I know that's a hard question. Where y'all think she went to law school? Somebody put it write it in the chat where you think she went to law school. And also, now I did some searching, and from a couple of sites I saw, when they mentioned her religion, what do you think her religion? What do you think they listed under religion? What do y'all think? What do y'all think? I'm not gonna. Yeah, the J word. So that tells me that she wasn't just a qualified Black woman, but she's a qualified Black woman who checks a lot of the boxes. She checks a lot of boxes. She's, and even Whoopi Goldberg said that she changed her name to Goldberg because she figured she could get more opportunities because with the name Goldberg, which is true. I mean, Sammy Davis. I think didn't Sammy Davis convert? I mean, come on now. I mean, stop acting like you don't have any power. Like you own everything, and people know this. Like, stop hiding. It's kind of weird. But anyway, here's some other things I noticed about her background. So she checks the boxes of Harvard and Jewish. Her parents were super highly educated. They're of African descent. I don't know what country in Africa. Maybe somebody that knows can put it in the chat. But I couldn't figure out what country that her parents' family was from. But they weren't. So again, it fits into that Obama space, right? The Obama space there's the strong Harvard influence, the Jewish influence, maybe either Jewish or LGBT. Some of those influences tend to stick in there, and there's also a heavily integrationist influence as well. And also remember Obama and Kamala Harris. One thing they have in common is neither one of them are really African American, right? When you talk about foundational Black Americans are still blocked out of many of the leading opportunities to run this country because they know foundational Black Americans who understand their history are going to bring up inconvenient topics like reparations. They're going to bring up reparations, and they don't want to have that conversation. Biden ain't ready for that. So if my family is from, Nigeria, shout out to the Nigerians, by the way. I'm 33% Nigerian. Nigerians, that culture is extraordinary. I'm proud to be part Nigerian, right? But I'm also foundational Black American because I can trace my lineage all the way back to slavery. My name Boyce came from my great grandfather's slave master naming him Boyce. so I've been here. My people been here, right? But I do have that Nigerian blood, and I own that, and I claim that, and I have no disrespect at all for those who come from other countries, unless you disrespect me. So here's the thing: if my family is from another country and I'm trying to fit in to the United States, then I'm going to go that Powernomics talks about this. Black labor, white wealth talks about this. There's an assimilationist pathway provided for most immigrant families such that if you check the boxes and if you do things right, then you can go as high as the Supreme Court. So Ketanji Brown Jackson to me is a person who did not come from a traditional African-American family. So they probably weren't crippled by many of the bad cultural norms that exist, from slavery, just the stuff we went through in this country that makes our families just a little bit broken. If you look at her parents, I think her dad was the head attorney for Miami-Dade County Schools. Her mother was a school principal. She goes to Harvard. So everything kind of works pretty well. And it doesn't mean that they're anti-Black. I wouldn't be one to say that being of African descent makes them anti-African American, but I think that there is something to be said about making sure we always know that there's a difference between a Black person who's from the United States in terms of lineage versus one who's not. I don't think, though, that they necessarily are our enemies. We got enough enemies out here. I'm not trying to make enemies out of Africans that want to work with us. I just don't want to do that because I think that Africa is your power base. I think that you should reconnect to Africa as much as you can, while at the same time, just understand there's a playbook here. The playbook here is if you look in the background of Barack Obama, he's not really African-American in that traditional sense. You look at the playbook of Valerie Jarrett, not quite African-American, Kamala Harris, not quite African-American. So what's happened in America is there still is kind of this acceptability standard, this thing that says, if you're the kind of Black person that we can get where you're willing to let go of certain things, then we can take you in, right? So here's the thing. Here's where it got real for Judge Ketanji Jackson Brown's background. She had an uncle that was sentenced under the crack laws. He was given life in prison for a nonviolent drug offense. Now, this is an important point I want to make to you guys, and I hope you'll hear me on this. So here's what happened, right? So her uncle goes to prison gets life in prison, I assume no parole, for this nonviolent crack offense. Well, how did he get out of jail? He got out of prison. Well, he got out of prison because Barack Obama issued him a pardon, right? So that's beautiful. He deserves it. I don't think hardly anybody should go to prison for life for a nonviolent offense. It bothers me. Now I need to make this clear point to you. How many of you, give me a yes or no, if you had an uncle that got life, first of all, how many of y'all got an uncle, a cousin, a brother, a sibling, a child, a little nephew, a play cousin that got like some major years in jail? Anybody else in the room? Give me a yes in the chat. Say their name in the chat. You say their name because I think it's important that we remember all of our people that are pretty much prisoners of war. I know they tell you the only war in the world is happening in Ukraine, but actually there's a war that's been happening here against the black man and the black woman in America for the last X hundreds of years, right? So how many of you, give me a yes in the chat, say the name of your loved one, say their name. Don't just say yes or no, say their name. Because I think it's important that we acknowledge them, because if you don't acknowledge them, then people are going to forget that they're alive. People go to prison and it's devastating because not only are you away from your family, maybe getting beaten up or raped or God knows what, but also people just act like you don't exist anymore. And they think, well, America's better now. We fixed some of those problems, but you didn't go back and correct the damage that you did. You know, do y'all understand how many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of black men and women are still in prison right now for stuff that happened in the 1990s and the 1980s? You know, do you understand the damage that is done to you every time they put something in the media where they celebrate some black man who got out of prison after 40 years for something he didn't even do, or for something he did as a 16-year-old? Like, do you understand how? Let me tell you why that's a ridiculous tradition. Because you're playing checkers, not chess. You're doing first grader analysis and not going, you need to go to high school with this. You need to go deeper with this. If I see that there's one guy who got 40 years in jail and just got out for something he didn't do, I'm not going to say, hooray, justice has been served. I'm going to say, well, shit, where's the other 10,000 guys who also got 40 years who didn't get featured on the local news? See, y'all don't understand. We've talked about this before, and I'm going to repeat it 10 million times until y'all get what I'm saying, because I don't know how long I'm going to be on this earth, so I got to make sure I say it enough times so that it sticks. When you're celebrating symbolism or one-off opportunities, that does nothing for the community on a significant scale. So let me circle back to Judge Ketanji, who I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you a precursor on my thinking on this. I don't think she's a bad nominee. I'm going to keep going down. I'm going to be honest about what I've seen and what I've read, and maybe there's more, right? I'm going to keep looking. But let's just be clear. Let me ask y'all another question. So a lot of y'all, I see a lot of yeses in the chat when I ask how many of y'all got uncles, cousins, and siblings and stuff in prison. How many of y'all feel like when your relative went to prison, or if you had a relative that went to prison, that they would get a pardon from somebody in the Democratic Party? How many of y'all feel that Barack Obama would pick up a phone and give a pardon to your cousin who got 45 years in prison? Give me a yes or no. How many of y'all even have that luxury? Well, the answer is no. Most of you don't. Most of you don't. So my point here is this. What happened to Judge Ketanji's uncle was clearly wrong. But also, what happened to her uncle in terms of him getting a pardon was an act that only occurs for privileged elite people. You got to go to Harvard for that. She had to be the editor of the Harvard Law Review or something in order to get that privilege. She had to be hooked up with the Obamas to get that. That don't mean nothing for the black community. That doesn't help the hundreds of thousands of other people who didn't get that same privilege. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with what they did for her uncle. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with her being on the Supreme Court. I think she's better than she's probably more qualified than most of those people that are on the court right now. Let's just be clear. But my Lord, when are we going to actually realize the deep dive work, the systematic work, the mass scale of what it's going to take to really fix the effects of decades of horrific discrimination? See, here's what needs to happen. If you really want to fix the criminal justice system, I don't really care about one case. I don't care. I didn't care a whole lot about the cops getting, in trouble for what happened with Breonna Taylor. I'm thinking about the thousands of other people that are affected by this situation. I didn't get caught up too much in, like one police shooting gets you caught up in the drama. It becomes like a soap opera. Like, ooh, did they lock him up? Or, ooh, did they? And then you feel this false sense of relief, which academics, we call that mental masturbation, where you literally get to the point where you think something has changed because you suddenly feel better because the cops who killed George Floyd are all going to jail. But nothing changed. No laws changed. They didn't go back and say, let's look at 10,000 other cases that in which the same thing happened to make sure that this never happens again and that we can go fix all the injustices that have occurred in the past. That never happens. It's all drama. It's always about a story. News, they call them news stories for a reason because they tell you stories because when they studied TED Talks and they found out which TED Talks got the most viewership, the TED Talks that got the most viewership were TED Talks in which the speaker spent 76% of the time telling stories. So people love to hear stories. So ultimately, the news just gives you a story. They're not giving you any meaningful data. They're not giving you any meaningful, relevant solutions. They're not positioning anything that on any sort of systematic scale is going to shift society. So I don't have a problem with Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson's uncle being released. My problem is, why in the world aren't we doing that for 100,000 other people? There are tens of thousands of families that are hurting because they had an uncle that got 100 years in prison and they can't get him out because they don't know the Obamas. Do you follow what I'm saying? Give me a yes in the chat so I can move on to my next point because I got a meeting in a couple minutes and I want to make sure we get this out. All right, give me a yes in the chat if you follow. Also, please hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. And also, just so you guys know, we're always, because we're independent and black, corporations don't give us money and all that stuff. We don't ask for that type of thing. So the community supports this platform. So if you subscribe at intelligentblackpeople.com, you're supporting the channel. And what I do in exchange is I give, you guys know my PhDs in finance, so I know how to pick stocks. So I pick stocks and give you stocks that you can invest in for your family in exchange. So it's not charity, it's a trade. If you would trade with us, we'd appreciate it because it allows our platform to grow and become strong. We're probably one of the few truly independent Black-owned platforms that can reach over 1 million Black people a week. And we would love to have your support in terms of us being able to do that on a larger scale. All right. So so here's the other thing too. So let's go down to the nitty-gritty. Some of y'all brought this up. So this is important to bring up. So Ketanji Brown Jackson, that's her husband. He's a surgeon by the name of Dr. Peter Jackson. And he doesn't look Black. He don't look like a brother. And not to say that disqualifies her entirely, but that again fits the integrationist narrative of Black Democrats. So effectively, and this is the reason why I don't define myself as a Democrat, is because some of the values or some of these approaches to achieving racial progress or equality are approaches that I don't believe actually work. I don't believe full integrationist ideologies work that well. I don't believe that we're going to be better off because more Negroes get positions in high places within white companies. I don't believe that we're going to do better when white people start to like us more. I believe we're going to be stronger when we own our own stuff. And so ultimately, when I saw the picture of her husband, I don't necessarily feel like that disqualifies her, but it's not as if that's taboo to mention, right? It doesn't mean you can't bring it up, right? Because I tell you guys all the time, I specifically and intentionally ensured that I chose a Black wife because I wouldn't feel comfortable being the man that I am sitting next to a wife with blonde hair and blue eyes. I would feel that kind of undermined the authenticity of what I'm doing, because if I say I'm an investor in the Black community, well, investment is about more than money. Where do you invest your time? Where do you invest your energy? Where do you invest your love? Right. So ultimately, my tribute to the Black woman came down to me saying, I'm going to invest my life in a Black woman, in a Black family. And so, but again, though, not everybody has to meet that same standard. And again, I don't think this makes Judge Ketanji unqualified to take this position. I think that she's gotten plenty of the Black experience to the point where I know, at least on the criminal justice issue we talked about, I think that there are many points we made today that she would probably agree with. I got a sense that she is very committed to helping to fix this criminal justice system, and I hope that she's able to do that. I love the fact that her family is highly educated. Most of y'all in here are educating the hell out of your kids, and I applaud that. That's how your kids are going to be successful. It bothers me that there are people that will encourage Black people to have low expectations of ourselves. So they'll have some rapper out here cooning it out, acting a damn fool, embarrassing the whole Black community, and they cheer all that on because they want that for you, but don't want that for themselves. They want your kids to be gangster rappers, but they don't want their kids in the gangster culture, right? They want Black women to be out here twerking it up like Lizzo and Megan Thee Stallion, but they ain't too many white women out here doing that same thing. So ultimately, I will say that while I'm not one to sit up here and say this is one of Biden's worst decisions, I think it's one of his best. I think that it's good. I think that there's more out there to be had. And I think that's where I really stand. I hope that you get what I'm saying here, because I don't want it to sound like I am against this particular appointment or that it means nothing. It does mean something. So think of it like glass half empty, glass half full. Biden will give you a glass that's about 20% full. The glass will be 20% full of what you need. I think it's up to us to get that other 80%. So do I think that this particular, nominee is going to change the world? No, it doesn't. Do I think that we're going to exaggerate our celebrationism over this and really think it's true Black progress? Yeah, we probably will. We tend to overreact on symbolism. When we got a Black president, we thought Jesus had come back to earth. I literally saw Black people bowing to Barack Obama, which absolutely positively is a huge sign of incredibly low self-esteem. You cannot have power if you are not capable of making demands. You cannot have power if you're not capable of putting your chin up and saying, thank you for what you've done, but that's not enough. We need you to do more. You cannot have power if you cannot command respect. And commanding respect means sitting down at the negotiating table without looking for other people to love you and to embrace you. Who cares if white people like you? You need to like yourself. If you like yourself, then you don't need other people to like you. Okay, guys. So anyway, those are my 2 cents on. That's my 2 cents on the issue. I think that Judge Ketanji is going to get. I think she's going to get the nomination. I think that she deserves to be on the court. I think that she does represent progress at that level. I think that there's a whole lot more to be done, though. I think that not addressing. I think it's just little weird things politicians do. Like I think it's hilarious that that they won't really do anything about the student loan crisis, but yet somehow they've convinced us that the most important thing in our lives is a war happening between Russia and Ukraine. Now, I'm not trying to say that war is not important. I'm not trying to say that it can't escalate. I just will tell you this. Here's my case in point. If those were two African countries going at it, if it was Ethiopia and Eritrea, do you think that they would be talking about it on CNN incessantly? Give me a yes or no. It literally, if these were two African countries going at it, one invades the other, Nigeria invades a neighboring country, do you think that war would literally be the number one talking point on all the major networks? No, it wouldn't. It's white supremacy. They're training you to have empathy because these are white people that are going through this. When Black people go through it, there's wars all over the place. There's so much violence in places like Chicago and Philadelphia. It's ridiculous. Do you know how many stories I could tell you about young Black children who had their whole lives ahead of them who were murdered in Chicago and Philadelphia and New York this week alone? Seriously. So remember, all this is very selective, and it's very important that you think for yourself so you don't get caught up in the wave of all this. So I wanted to talk about what was going on with this judge because I found it really interesting. I'm proud of her and her family. I think they've done a great job. I don't know what this is going to lead to, but I would give it a thumbs up. Actually, overall, I would say sure. Why not? Why not? Because you need to have a Black woman on the Supreme Court. You need a couple of them actually, and hopefully we'll get to that point. All right, guys, I'm about to get out of here. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Also, if you want to support the platform, you go to intelligentblackpeople.com. That's intelligentblackpeople.com. And also, I'd be remiss not to mention Lene Javette is hosting a women's conference called the Black Power Her Conference, HER. And literally, there's 20 Black women who are experts in business, who are literally covering everything from sales and branding and marketing, financing, taxes, everything else. So if you are either trying to start that business or take that business to the next level, they've got a whole powerhouse collection of super smart Black women who have been very successful economically. And this event happens March 5th, and it's all virtual, so you can watch it from home. So I put the link to the conference on my website, boycewatkins.com. So if you go to boycewatkins.com, you can feel free to go take a look. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button on your way out. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones too late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.